Tony, actually, it was the great man Tom Panos that I follow and watch on social media. He does enormous work. Like, we're both on social media all the time, doing these Facebook Live. He actually spoke about real estate agents yesterday, more and more leaving the industry every day. A lot of owners, employees are struggling with mental health right now. I actually put out a post on that video to say if anyone wants any help or wants to talk to someone about it. I think the big thing is, and even Triple M in Sydney today did a feature all for 6 hours where they played songs and spoke about mental health, especially, you know, that's a highly dominated male viewing station where they talk about sport and it's rock and it's all those sorts of things. And I think the big thing around this, and I never thought we're going to get on the mental health track as well, but the big thing around that was the idea that, you know, especially with males, we just don't reach out. And I know that at Lifeline, I know that a high percentage of the calls are coming through from females than males. I don't know. Are you seeing the same sorts of things when you coach people?
Because yeah, of course, because we're blokes, and because as blokes we've got a big mask up in front of us, right? And what we need to be able to do is bring down the mask of vulnerability and be true to ourselves, be who we really are. Find someone that you can confide in, whether it be someone from Lifeline like yourself. It could just be a mate down the pub. Doesn't really matter. And this is not just for males, it's for women as well. But let's talk about males. Bring your mask down and talk about what's really going on. And just the mere fact that you're discussing something can be enormously helpful. Right, enormously helpful just to feel like you can get something off your chest, because quite often we try to solve things in our head and it goes around and around and around and we get incredibly overwhelmed by it all. And it's when you start to express things outwardly, whether it be verbally in discussions, whether it be writing stuff down, looking back and just reflecting what it is that you wrote, you're getting out of your head. You're not going to solve the problem necessarily in your head when you've got 20,000 other things that you're trying to go through. All you're going to feel is more stress, more overwhelm, more anxiety, etc. Speak to someone, get it out onto paper, and then start to sit back and then reassess.
Yeah, Matthew has actually said Triple M should be credited. I actually did it was a 100%. Massive amounts of time today, just radio. Julia Goulard comes on because she's actually the person in charge of Beyond Blue, and she talked about Beyond Blue and Lifeline there, did a little bit of a speech around that. So nice thing I guess it's Eddie Maguire, but he's down in Melbourne. I'm not too sure. Anyway, so
I'm not sure.
Has actually said I struggle with mental health all the time. Kind of getting used to it now. Good admission, David. I respect you for like putting it out there. That's a huge thing for people to actually say. I'm struggling with mental health, and I know. Not our topic today, but I guess the self-awareness and the admissions and the vulnerability to put it out there and talk about it with other people is the strength that can actually not only help yourself, because I think we do better when we talk about things, but it might actually help someone else who is vulnerable, who doesn't want to put it out to other people.
Yeah, 100%. Now let me just give a disclaimer that I'm not a psychologist, but one of the best bit of advice that I give people around the whole mental health side of things is get very mindful and get very present. That is right in the here and now. What happens is when you look back in the past, we tend to get depressed. We tend to get depressed. We dwell about missed opportunities, things that could have happened, should have happened, didn't happen, etc. And when we look into the future, we get stressed and anxious about what may happen, what may not happen, etc. And when you come back to the right here and now, this very moment, get very mindful, get very present, I find that that's a great way to start to get in tune with yourself as opposed to getting too far ahead of yourself. Because how often do we get worked up about something into the future and it never eventuates?
But it's also, judgments,
or how much time,
how you respond to difficult situations. Look, it's a number of things, and you've touched on probably one aspect.
Of course it is.
Aspect there, Tony, which is really good for people to be, to be mindful of. We've just got to work on this, and it's a constant work. Like it's a constant thing that we work on. I speak to Tony about it, and these discussions help me, and I'm sure they definitely help Tony, because this is gold going both ways.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, right? So for people to get six-pack abs, what do they got to do? Do they go to the gym once, do a few sit-ups and hope they get six-pack abs? No, they don't. You got to do it regularly. You got to eat right, etc. You got to follow a process. No different to the mind. No different to the mind. You need to go through a routine regularly. Get mindful. Meditate if that's of interest. I meditate every day. Get mindful, get meditative, and start to work on your mind every single day. Build the muscle. Build the muscle. Don't just do it once. That's not enough. I'm constantly working on myself from a mental perspective to ensure that I'm operating at my maximum potential.
That's right, day in, day out. And, you know, because things could get you down. You might go through a lull period if you don't work on these daily habits, right? So I think that's what's
all the
important.
time. Look, I go through plenty of ups and downs, right? And I'm human.
I'm kind of like, what's going to happen when I do stop running? You know, I've done 550 days of running 7Ks every day, and it definitely does help me. What's going to happen when I do decide to stop?
Well, firstly, why do you want to stop? Firstly, why do you want to stop? But the other is then you're the sort of person who'll find something else.
Yes, I will.
You know, so you're the sort of person who'll find a different challenge for yourself. So you may stop running, but then you'll pick something else up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, kind of, you know, it's in the back of my mind, but, you know, it's something that I play around with sometimes, but it always is like what I'm going to do next, because I know I want to do daily stuff. So, David, before we complete this particular part of the topic, but he says, absolutely, Luke, been through it all. I hope I can help others going into a similar situation. And that's really powerful, fantastic, David. I think it goes back to what I've said previously about being a better tennis player. You become a better tennis player when you're actually a tennis coach. So I know I've used this analogy with Tony a couple of times, but that can be the same way, I believe, with mental health. I think that's a really powerful one. If you can start teaching other people, you actually, it's the words you're saying are going to often relate back to you. What do you think about that, Tony, before we come on to our last topic?
Well, firstly, it reinforces learning. So if you're able to pass knowledge on to other people, it reinforces learning. Secondly, you're helping someone else, and you know what? That feels pretty damn good. And then you touched on the whole language side of things. Well, having studied NLP, I mean, it's all about neuro-linguistic programming. The L for linguistic is all around the language. And I quite often say to people, be careful what you say to yourself, because your mind is listening. So you might say something outward to others, but you might be thinking something differently to yourself. Either way, be careful what you keep saying, because your mind is listening.
I'd love to hear people's thoughts on, you know, Tony and I are kind of different people, got the, you know, similar values in that way. We probably deliver a message very differently. He's, you know, articulates quite well. I'm just like a bunch of everything all over the place. But, you know, we've got a similar approach. So,
but you're you. But you're being
absolutely,
you, right? So
absolutely.
You're being true to yourself, and I'm true to me. And you know what? We deliver it differently. Who really cares? As long as we deliver it. And I think that's the thing. A lot of people fail to even deliver. There's a lot of great people out there who've got a lot of wealth. In fact, we all have a lot of wealth, information, knowledge to share.
I'm the milkman. I deliver.
Okay. But that's the thing, and I'd encourage a lot of people that we've all got plenty of stuff that we're sitting on.
Should have said the mailman. Sorry.
And no, that's okay, mate. As long as you're entertaining yourself, that's
absolutely all the time.
But
it's so funny.
But people need to get out of their own way and share, because we're all sitting on plenty of a wealth of information, and we just need to pass it on to other people.
We did have another topic to talk about, and we might just like wrap it up quickly, but. You know, the whole idea about us being just so different from each other, and how that is so special, I believe. And the more differences that we have, I've actually learned a lot about that. And maybe in the past, I was like, well, why do they do it that way? And now I'm realizing more and more about seeing that it is so special that we do things differently, and reflect on that, because I don't have all the answers, and I don't have all this. I don't have strengths in every single area.
No, but again, it comes down to self-awareness, recognizing that you've got strengths in certain areas, and where do I have deficiencies, and let's seek out people who can plug those gaps for me. That's where, again, self-awareness has come up probably 20 times in this conversation, and the fact that we are different is really special, because we all have our own. It'd be quite boring if we sat here and talked about exactly the same topics, and so we provide different perspectives, and I see plenty of your lives with different people, and different people have different viewpoints, and I think it provides for a well-rounded discussion. I think that's important for people to then ultimately make their own mind
Imagine if there was two Tonys.
Wow. Strap yourself in.
Imagine two Lukes, mate. It would be out of control. Out of control.
Oh my goodness! Every time I'd scroll through my Facebook feed, that's all I'd see.
Imagine two Gary V's. What would that deliver?
Oh wow!
what would that deliver?
Wow, special.
And Magic. It reminds me of the Gary V, Tony Robbins video where there was a lot of people that actually just like hated Gary V, and there was a lot of people that hated Tony
Correct.
Robbins if they were followers of each other. But it was really special, and I'd love to see those guys go toe-to-toe for 12 hours of absolutely like rant discussion all the way through. I reckon it would be something that the world would just like stop and listen to. Well, at least should.
I agree, but well, at least you and I would. What about you and I go toe-to-toe for 12 hours? There's a challenge for you.
We could do.
Hey, we could... I'm conscious that people need to eat their dinner shortly and whatnot, but mate, there you go. That's a goal for you and I to get on there and just talk about a range of things.
I think we public location.
Yeah, we can do that.
I think in public. I've always thought about the idea of doing something in Martin Place all day. So that could be, we just get a list of 20 topics and
ask your viewers. Put the idea out to your viewers and give us your feedback.
Well, I like a public arena.
I'd happily be involved.
Public arena, and we can just have guests coming along. What do you reckon?
Oh, fantastic! I love it. I love it.
You go to your networking meeting.
Let's make it happen.
I'm going to make things happen. What I'm doing tonight. It's been a massive day. But Tony, thank you again for coming on. Great discussion. Loved every moment.
Thank you, mate.
See you guys.
Appreciate it. See you. Bye.